Morning, everybody, and thanks for joining myself, Jude, and Eliza today. To start the session, I wanted to share with everybody a fact that a UK published study earlier this year reported that women make up 28% of the UK game development workforce, despite women being 46% of gamers globally. I'm Sarah Calverley, and I have worked in technology for around 15 years, currently working as a senior business manager at Amazon Web Services in our game tech team. I'm joined today by two inspirational women working in games. Eliza Ralph. Eliza is a technical lead at mobile gaming studio Outplay Entertainment, best known for its chart-topping Match 3 and Tower Defense games. Eliza has a long background in software engineering, making her break into the gaming industry in 2015 at Next Games, where she worked on titles such as Walking Dead, Our World, and No Man's Land, and Blade Runner 2049. I'm also joined today by Jude Ower. Jude is the CEO and founder of Playmob. Playmob have engaged over 140 million gamers to take action for global issues and have raised over $1.5 million for causes in the process. Jude was recently awarded Most Influential Women in Tech 2018 and in the Maserati 100 2018 with the Sunday Times. In 2016, she was awarded an MBE for services to entrepreneurship. Welcome, Jude and Eliza. If I could just start by asking you to tell me a little bit about your background. So Eliza, how did you get into the games industry, first of all?
I got into the games industry by stumbling across a job ad that already fit my profile. So as you already explained, I've got a long background in software engineering and tech. I was always interested in games, but never thought it was a valid career choice at first because heard all of the rumors that it's hard to get into, that you had to be in the know. I didn't think I knew enough about the game industry as such, but then when I saw relevant job advertised with Next Games as a DevOps engineer that already fit my profile, I thought I would give it a shot, was successful, and since then I haven't looked back. I love working in the gaming industry.
Great. Thank you, Eliza. And Jude, how about yourself? How did you get into games in the first place?
So I got into games, probably when I was about 2 years old.
Wow.
When we used to play on the Commodore 64, the old school consoles. But yeah, and loved tinkering around then as well. But properly, I got into games, into the industry when I was at university. So around 2002, I went to Abertay University in Dundee, and I was studying marketing. And at the time as well, there was a unit in Abertay called Embryonics, which grew startups. So when it came to the time of doing my dissertation, I knew I didn't want to do it on a big company. I wanted to do it on smaller startups. So I went down to Embryonics and took a look at some of the companies that were down there and was introduced to a gaming company. So two guys who were building games for corporate training and for education. And so they built a demo and they were starting to take it out to market. And I love this whole idea of using games for another purpose other than just pure entertainment. So loving games from being a kid, and then seeing this, I was like, this is brilliant. So and I like the idea of being able to work with a startup and be able to learn about all areas of the business. So that was kind of like my first step into gaming and my first step into the startup world, and have kind of been in that space of games for education, training, and impact kind of ever since.
That's great to hear, and interesting that you studied marketing. And so my own background isn't technical. I did an arts degree in languages, and I think that's an important point for people joining, that you don't necessarily need to have a technical background if you do wish to work in technology or the games. There's lots of other roles available that aren't kind of deeply technical. And also, in my experience, a lot of the technology can be learned if you're willing to kind of throw yourself into a new challenge. There's lots of opportunities. So Eliza, what's your experience? What's it like being a woman in the games industry? Good, bad, any insights you could share for us?
Well, actually, compared to working in the tech industry, I find the gaming industry a lot more diverse. That may come down to gaming being so multidisciplinary that it also covers entertainment, and then there's the business model side of things. What it's like to be a woman, I guess some of my personal experiences have been that sometimes I find that I have to adopt a more masculine-like behaviour in order to sometimes get my point across and to be understood. Because if I feel that I approach something in a more feminine way and what feels more natural to me, then I sometimes struggle to get that point noticed. I don't really like doing this, but I feel like it's just something that I need to do sometimes to survive.
Okay, and the same question for yourself, Jude. Any insights you'd like to share with what it's been like, your experience as a woman in the industry?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one, I guess, because I haven't been in any other industry. I mean, I've worked with other industries, like at the moment we work with charities, we work with brands, so you get kind of insight into other industries, but gaming is kind of all I've ever known, and my experience has been it's a very, when you're in it, it's a very inclusive industry. Like I feel like it's, you know, there's a lot of people that will help each other out. But I can see that from an external point of view, if you're not in the industry, it might seem quite, not cliquey, but that might not be the right word, but because everyone, you know, everyone knows each other, and so how do you break into that? So I can imagine if you aren't in the games industry, that would be your first challenge, getting to know people and then getting into the industry. But once you're in, I feel like there's a lot of support, and being a woman in the industry, it's definitely changed since I got into it in kind of 2001, 2002, to the point where I remember going to an esports event kind of 2005, 2006 when I first moved to London, and someone asked if I was the promo girl. You wouldn't get that these days because, you know, there are more women getting into the industry. But I think in terms of running a business, what we found is, you know, we would love to have more female developers developing games and technology with us. I think that's really, really important. We've found we've got great women in our team from kind of the marketing and client side, and on our board as well, it's 50-50. But we'd love to find more technical expertise from women. So that's kind of one of our challenges at the moment. So if there are any developers out there, you know, looking for roles, then, you know, I'd love to talk to you. But yeah, all in all, I found it a very positive experience. I haven't really had any kind of negative experiences. But again, it's all I've ever known.
That's great to hear, Judith, and I completely agree. So personally, I've worked with game studios for around 3 years now, and I would say the same, that I think when you at first glance, it appears that perhaps everyone knows each other and it's hard to get into, but all I've found is an incredibly nurturing, welcoming culture. So, and it's, you know, it's great to be a part of. I totally agree.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd love to see, I don't know whether you've ever come across, I think it's EY that do dinners where they're for women, and you are asked to bring another woman along. So, you know, you're bringing someone from outside kind of into the network. And I think that might be a really interesting thing for us to do. Maybe Women in Games can do that, or it could be done through a series of events. But if you're a woman going to an event, you know, take another woman along who might be exploring career options and hasn't really considered the games industry or is just curious. So it might be a great way to start, you know, for you know, kind of bringing more women into the industry, but giving exposure in terms of what types of jobs and careers are available.
That's a great idea, and it kind of is a good segue into my next question, which is, what has helped you the most to succeed, that you would like to impart on others? So Eliza, if we start with yourself, would it be a role model or a mentor or something that's really helped you to be able to succeed in your career?
Firstly, I would say this goes back to my father being a strong role model when I was a child. He sat me down, he taught me how to use a computer. He was very supportive when it came to education. But throughout my life, just trying to take a fearless attitude towards things. I mean, I do have fears, but I try not let them to control my life, and there is nothing to gain if you don't put yourself out there.
So being bold,
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And then research has also shown that men have a tendency to exude more confidence when it comes to interviews, asking for pay raises, and those types of things. So that's why it's important to recognise as a woman that we have a tendency to not put ourselves out there in the same way, and it really pays off to work on your own self-confidence and try not to be so humble, to know how to float your own boat a bit more.
And I think that's where a support network comes in, and organisations such as Women in Games, and having other people that are kind of supporting and championing what you're doing and your cause. Jude, would you like to add anything in terms of what's helped you the most that you would like to share with others?
Yeah, so no, it's interesting hearing your experience, because I think like my mum was probably my role model. She was kind of the one that was into tech in the family, and made sure we had a computer when computers first came out, and we had the internet, and she's got that kind of science tech mind. So for me, that was just kind of normal growing up. So, but I think some things that have helped me have definitely been get a good mentor. Think about the things you want to learn or the things that you need, and put yourself out there and try and find someone that can fit that mold. So I had a mentor when I first moved to London, and he's one of our investors now, and we still talk. But he just gave me really good guidance around kind of trying to unlock your potential. So how to get yourself out of your own way, because there's a lot of things that can hold you back. And one of the exercises I remember he did with me was all around your fears. So he said, list out your fears, and then week on week we would have a call, and then we'd review the fears. And I remember having 10 things on my list, and he said you need more. So I went away and listed out about 100 things, and then each week we would go through them, and you'd go, not relevant, not relevant, no point in worrying about now, worry about it when it happens. And it was all about, there's no point in spending that energy worrying about stuff that may never ever happen. So just do what you can do today and do it really well. So I definitely think mentorship is really key. I think that network piece is so crucial as well. The more people you get to know, because you might not find your mentor straight away, but the more people you talk to, and you kind of then start to understand what you need, what you want, then people start introducing you to other people, and your network is so valuable. I think the other thing is like believe in yourself, like trust your gut. You'll get a lot of people trying to give you advice, and it's great to have mentors on board, and it's great to build up your network, but trust what your gut says, because you will get a lot of conflicting advice as you go through your journey, but stay true to what you believe in.
I totally agree. Authenticity, I think, is super important. So at Amazon Web, about a year or so ago, we launched a program called Get IT. And it's all around the importance of role models, which I believe is really, really important to encourage girls into technology and into games. And the programme is aimed at Year 8 students across the UK. And there is a team of female ambassadors working in schools, and it launches an inter-school competition where students have to think about a problem in their school or in their community and how an app could help. And then throughout the year, the ambassadors work with the students to help them design the app. And then there's a final, and ultimately Amazon builds the winning app for the school. And we found it's a really good social initiative for helping expose Year 8 students, boys and girls, to a career in tech. Now, for Playmob and Outplay, are there any similar programs that you'd like to highlight that you're working on to help increase inclusion within the games industry? Eliza, if we could start with yourself.
Yeah, internally we have the Outplay Academy, and that's how Outplay has branded its learning and development hub, and it has its own presence on social media. Then part of the Outplay Academy is an initiative called InPlay, which is Outplay's diversity and inclusion team. And that tackles things like educational outreach, mentoring, providing work experience, conducting game jams. And then Outplay also has a close relationship with schools and universities, mainly Abertay and the Glasgow Caledonian University up here in Scotland.
That's interesting. So Abertay's cropped up for both of you. That's interesting to know. And any programs that you would like to highlight, Jude, that you're currently working on?
Yeah, so as a business, there's more that we want to do. You know, especially engaging kind of younger audiences, younger kids in terms of tech and gaming and impact. But we do quite a bit with our clients at the moment around. I mean, all of our initiatives are all around impact. So one of our big clients is we work with Dove around self-esteem issues, and that's looking at kind of the a teenage demographic, and we're using playables in order to raise awareness of body image issues, about teasing and bullying, about media and celebrity. So we then roll out the playable through existing mobile games, and that's how we reach our audiences. But this whole process has gone through a big academic study. So that we spent about a year working with the university to look at control groups and looking at how impactful this was in comparison to going into schools to do workshops, or they also work with the Girl Guides and the Scouts. And so this was really kind of one of their first tests in how they can scale up and do more digitally and use gaming as a tool to reach young lives. And it came out as being really highly effective. So but now we're moving to the point of rolling out to another 10, potentially 20 countries. So taking the same game, localizing it, and then rolling it out to mobile games that are within those regions. So yeah, it's a really interesting program, being able to see that we've got a model now of being able to track a life reached as well, so we can see the impact happening, which is brilliant. So now Dove can really scale up the number of lives that they want to reach in the next 5 years. And we're looking at other organisations doing that want to do similar studies around self-esteem. But yeah, I mean, as Playmob, one of the things that we've been looking at is how we've done a few things kind of going into schools, and we get the kids to play the games that we've built. So things like we've got games around protecting the oceans and plastics and climate and the self-esteem game as well. And we get them to play, and then they talk about the issues, but they also talk about the games industry as well. So we're kind of coming at it from a different angle, and showing them that games could be used for another purpose, getting them to talk about the issues within the games, but also then talking about the wider industry. But one thing we've been talking about is how we do more of these and do them online. And that could be doing something like, talking about ocean issues and bringing in an expert like Sylvia Earle to talk about it, and then opening it up as a webinar so that kids from all over can take part and learn about the game, learn about the topic, and then naturally they want to ask a lot of questions about the industry too. So it's something we've been planning. We haven't done any yet. So yeah, it's something that we'd like to do.
It's really interesting, Jude. When I was working as the ambassador for the Get IT with the Year 8 students, so many times one of the ideas was a game. So it shows how, I guess, how relevant games are for Year 8 students. And also with what you were saying, so many times the environment came up. So it was how can Year 8 students raise awareness of environmental issues, but also gamify. So yeah, it sounds like definitely. There's a lot of synergies there. My next question is my own personal interest as to why there is a low number of women who choose to work in games from a young age. And I'm interested in both of your thoughts around this. Do you feel like it's a lack of exposure? They're just simply not exposed to games or technology? Or is it something else? Is it a lack of encouragement if there is an interest and it's just kind of, said, oh no, that's not something you should do? But Eliza, what do you think as to some of the reasons why there are few
I can only really
interested
reflect
in
on
games?
the tech side of things because that's all I really know. But one thing I have found from graduates going through school that have studied computer science or programming is that once they graduate, they tend to want to aim towards more social jobs, because there's this preconception that programming is more of a, something you do in isolation, that it's not very people focused. But from my personal experience, there certainly is a lot of interaction working with other people as a programmer, especially when you get to a lead role, because you're constantly working with stakeholders and various customers, and you certainly need to engage your stakeholders when it comes to building a product that they want to love and want to use. But still, how to address that preconception that programming is somehow not a social job, I'm not really sure. Then, like we've already touched upon, that the gaming industry can be seen as inclusive, that you need to be in the know, that may also deter people from entering the industry. And there still is the notion with older generations that working in games is not a real job. So there might not be the encouragement coming from the older generation into considering it as a valid career choice.
Too much fun to be a real job. I think that's why it's so important to have these types of talks, to dispel some of the myths that you alluded to around it's not very sociable. And I think it's important that we kind of have that conversation so that people aren't closing off doors before they've even had the opportunity to consider the career. And same question to you, Jude. What do you feel is some of the reasons why there's perhaps less of an interest?
I think it's just kind of lack of awareness of the types of roles that are available. And I almost kind of want there to be like a big kind of campaign where, the UK government is great at kind of showcasing entrepreneurs, and, you'll see kind of billboards in airports and all around of kind of, highlighting entrepreneurs and a little bit about their story. Imagine being able to do this and, select all the different types of roles that there are available within the games industry, and do a big campaign to show what type of job you can do. But I definitely think, I think in terms of the Get IT program that you guys run, I think it's really important to start with what's the product, what's the outcome, because that's what gets kids excited, and then start to break it down into the types of roles that you can play. And then, because there's everything from, the business side, sales, marketing, design, production, project management, there's all the technical skills, artists. So I just think there's so much that I think is just unknown. So I think just to be able to kind of talk about that and show what's available, I think would be really, really powerful. I think that's the biggest issue.
I think that's what we recognise with the Get IT programme, is that to really start the conversation young, kind of at year 8, when you're starting to think about your career when you're 12 or 13 as to what you might wish to study. So you've got kind of an early opportunity for exposure into something else.
Yeah.
And so for both of you, what more can we be doing to attract more women into the games and into the tech industries, do you think? Eliza, I can't see your video. I'm presuming you're still on the line. I wondered if you have thoughts as to what more we can be doing.
As I'm currently hiring for a number of technical roles, I'm frankly not seeing the female candidates coming through. So this would suggest to me that either Outplay is an unattractive company, which I don't think so, because we're getting female applicants in the other roles. So I'm feeling that more of the problem is coming from earlier in life. And so I believe that reaching out to schools, to younger people, to consider it as a valid career choice would be the theme that would assist in getting more into the industry, at least the tech side of things.
Yeah, I agree. And Jude, same question for yourself. Anything else you think we should be doing?
Yeah, no, so I definitely agree with that point. I think, going in younger to the schools and show them the types of careers that are available is really crucial to raise awareness. But I also think as well, the point that I made earlier about bring a woman to an event where, she might be interested in the games industry, but hasn't, is not from the industry, or is going through a career change, or, maybe a mum who's gone back to work but doesn't want to go back to what they did before, or I think just being able to open up to kind of new new groups, I think would, you know, start to raise the profile of, you know, what's available within the industry, and, you know, make it less intimidating just to kind of go in cold. So yeah, I think between those two things, and I think the other thing as well is the you know, I don't know whether this may put people off if they read about things like, you know, when you go through kind of crunch moments within games, you know, if you've got like really tight deadlines and, you know, it's, you know, you're at it day and night, you know, that might be an element of, you know, putting people off as well. You know, people, you know, you want a good work-life balance, and they might see the industry as being quite hard when it comes to hours. So, and it's not always the case. There'll be pockets of time that are crunch because you've got to get something out or you're racing up against the deadline, but you're going to get that in any job really. So I think being able to shine a light on that and to see if you know, what are the issues, where are the issues, how can we solve them, and are we, you know, are people seeing this as a bigger issue than what it actually is? I'm not sure. I don't know, but that could be another area that we need to explore more.
So maybe having the honest kind of dialogue as to what a day-to-day role is like,
yeah.
And just start to kind of challenge maybe some of the preconceptions of the role.
Exactly.
Okay, so conscious of time, maybe kind of a final question for you both. So Eliza, what advice would you give to a 12, 13-year-old girl who is really keen to get into games?
Because the gaming industry is multidisciplinary and there's so many different types of roles, it's hard to answer that question. But one thing I would say is that getting involved in game jams or taking on a personal project, regardless of what you're interested in, can go a long way, and getting yourself known and understanding what building a game is all about.
Yeah, I love that.
And as far as the tech side of things
Jude,
go, I went down the path of studying a degree, but of course that's not the only way. There's a lot of great resources out there nowadays to become self-taught, and again, being self-taught backed up with getting involved in personal projects is a good way to skill up.
Having the experience, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eliza, and Jude, for yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, you know, I think game jams are a really good way for everyone to get involved, but, you know, especially for kind of 12, 13-year-olds, you know, if schools could organise game jams, or even if there was online resources for kids to self-organise their own game jams. I mean, my nephew created a little group of, I think there's about 4 or 5 of them, where they were coming up with different characters and game ideas, and one of them was learning how to code, and one of them really liked the design side, so they'd almost kind of, you know, self-created this little team. But, you know, maybe there's more advice on how you can do that, and the different skills that are needed to be able to build a game. You know, because there's online platforms that could be used to build, and they could use things like Scratch to learn and build as well. So I think it's just making it known what's there, and then what's entailed to build a game, and then, you know, letting kids have some fun with it as well. And I think that's the key thing as well, is it's about having fun, because they're creating really fun things up for other people to play. So yeah, integrating that as part of the school or outside of school activity, I think would be really, really valuable.
Okay. I totally agree. It's having the opportunity and the exposure. So we're coming up to the hour. I just wanted to thank you both, Eliza and Jude, for the panel, and I think it's now over for some questions.
Yes, really love that. Thank you, all of you. So we're a few questions through. We are going to run out of time, so I won't gather all of them, but they are all in the chat if you can go through. So I'll pick out a couple. Amanda Carrington asks, there's a lot of initiatives to get women into games. What are your thoughts on actually retaining women in games? Who wants to take that first, Jude?
Yeah, no, I think it's a question. Yeah, it's a good one, because, you know, we often think about how to get more women into the industry, but how do we make sure we keep them here? And I think you know, it is about, you know, everyone supporting each other, making it inclusive, making you know, having a good work-life balance, making it a great place to work. And I think organisations have to, you know, think about how they all contribute to that, and each employee has to think about how they contribute to that as well to make it inclusive for everyone. But even things like childcare, and this is not just for women, this is for men as well, for all parents. You know, what childcare is on offer, and just make it as, I think, make it as inclusive, helpful, supportive, and yeah, open as possible. But yeah, so I think it comes from everyone in the industry and all the organisations that are within it as well.
Sarah?
So yeah, I totally agree with Jude's points. I think this is where it's around inclusive, and I think it's one thing to kind of attract talent and women into the industry, but then we have to keep developing, and I think that's through individuals feeling that they are empowered and they have a strong kind of career and prospects, and I think also things like feel included. So to Eliza's points earlier on about making yourself heard in a meeting, I think having an inclusive culture and feeling that your contributions count, people listen to you, and I think that's the responsibility of the teams and the culture at the company. And those kind of things will make people stay, I think, longer.
Liza, any final points to add?
I mostly agree with what's been said so far. It's just now sparked my interest to know if there's any statistics on women leaving the industry for others. But then I think I noticed a question around that point. I'm not sure if you're going to read it, Gemma. It was something regarding
Yeah, there's a question from
moving back to tech.
That's it. Emma was, have you ever, any of you ever felt it's too much to be a woman in the games industry and wanted to switch to a regular tech industry?
I honestly have felt that at times. Reflecting back on the situation at the times, I think it was more down to the company culture that was grating on me rather than the games industry itself.
Okay. That's a fair point. So we're over our time now. There are a couple of other questions in there, so please go into the chat and have a look at those, and you can reply on there. But thank you all for your time. Really appreciated that, and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.